funny story, so I'm sure my dad remembers when he came to visit at Antioch. I was a senior at the time, and we had co-ed showers. And so Dad stayed with me, and I don't think I'd mentioned to him that we had co-ed showers. And so he went to take a shower, and he was rather quick. He came back, and he just said, there was a young lady in the shower. And that's sort of all he said. And I said, oh, I forgot to tell you, we have co-ed showers, Dad. Sorry.
Well, I guess he didn't complain too much.
No.
Okay, I'm going to expand a little bit. In growing up, your teenage years, you being a young man, you developing, finding yourself. What did it mean to you to be a Kennedy? What did it mean to you to be in this family?
I think it's a catch-22 question, because I think growing up, I certainly realized the importance, but not as much as I realize it now. And I think, you know, I went to a very exclusive high school in New York, in the Bronx, called Riverdale, and most of the kids were predominantly white, very wealthy white kids. And my first day there, you know, one of the kids said, you know, what does your dad do? You know, is your dad a janitor and your mother's a maid? And it was one of the first fights I ever got into, because, you know, that anyone trying to describe my parents as janitors and maids, it just made me furious. And when you know, I said, you know, my father has been to Africa, has traveled around the world. And, you know, everyone, you know, people say, okay, all right, well, okay, that's all right, but what, in the military? I said, no, not in the military. He has his own company. And, you know, and I would talk about who my parents were and what it meant. And I think it took a lot of those kids, it was disbelief. They had never met a black person, a black family that had done all the things that we had done. And I think it was, and it shocked them even further that I had traveled to more countries than they had been to. So it was a revelation, and it made me feel very proud. But it's I think that's I go back wanted to try to uphold the family value and the family core. So I realized it, but I think I realize it so much more now.
I also think, Adam, that's what took you along your course to be independent when it came to business. I've heard comments that you've made about being independent. Your father was independent, your mom's been independent when it came to making money. It was important to have your own business. Let's talk about that for a moment.
Well, I think both of them, again, set a terrific example in that there was nothing that you can't accomplish. You can accomplish anything that you want to, and there are no restrictions. And I think so, being able to see my father start his own company, my mother being independent as a writer, I think that just, it gave me the belief that I could achieve and do anything I wanted to do. And I think that there was also, because earlier you asked about pressure, I think that there was, as I got out of college, I think there was, I'd majored in international relations and journalism, so sort of one thing after my father, one thing after my mother. But I think I did feel at that stage that I wasn't sure I could live up to the things that they had achieved. So I sort of went off into business. And, you know, it was, in retrospect, I think I should have stuck with those foundations. But I think I did feel a sense of pressure. Again, not from them, but from myself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, I'm going to expand it a little more now into the family. You were around Grandma on many occasions.
Yes.
So let's talk about your view of Grandma. What was she like?
Grandma was, she was the foundation. I mean, she was the rock of the family. And I think so many of the aspects of my dad's personalities, Uncle James, Aunt Mary's, the rest of the families, you could see that it came from Grandma. And she, the idea of support, you know, we spent a lot of time in this house together when she stayed here. And I had written a number of articles in some local newspapers when I was in college. And when I came back from a break, she had, I don't know how she got them, but she had the articles. And she had sent them around to everybody that she knew. And it was, you know, it was fantastic. I mean, she was that kind of person in that she believed in me. And she took care of me in so many wonderful ways. I remember one of my most poignant memories, James Jr. and I went to day camp. I was staying at Uncle James's Aunt Janie's. And I guess we were about maybe 9 or so. And we hated going to this camp. Hated it, actually hated it. And I got very sick coming home. I had diarrhea. I was very sick. And I was embarrassed. Now, and Aunt Janie and Uncle James weren't home, but Grandma was there. And I was embarrassed because I had gotten sick. And she took such great care of me. She took me upstairs. She gave me a bath. You know, she held me, and it was really a remarkable moment because I felt really embarrassed. And she just said, "It's okay. It's okay." And I'll never forget that because she made me feel wonderful. And she had that ability to make me feel wonderful.
One of the traits, I believe, of the Kennedy family has always been to be unassuming, and there's been a lot of humility based upon certainly the accomplishments. And sometimes maybe they've been a little too humble because, for the most part, the outside world doesn't really know of all the things that they've done. So what should the outside world really know about the Kennedy family?
Well, I think you're definitely right. I think that they've always been, and I think, you know, overly humble and unassuming. It's a difficult question to answer because I think there's so many correct answers. I think there was obviously a tremendous amount of achievement across the board, and I think, you know, it's on one hand, one can say here is a family that grew up poverty-stricken, faced enormous challenges with race, poverty, injustice, and through Grandma, through Daddy Leon, they instilled in these children the belief that the world was their oyster, that there were no barriers. And it was through education and determination, hard work, but also compassion and giving. I mean, I think that's one of the great attributes of all of them is their tremendous compassion and ability to give. Always thinking about other people first. And that certainly has been, I think, a trademark, a hallmark of all of them. So I think they're remarkable. Each one of them is remarkable in their own way, and they are great achievers. And it's, I mean, this is important to document it because they are humble, and their achievements are just stellar. They really are.
And as you said, to me, it's so important to document this because if you don't document things, one, it's forgotten, two, if somebody else looks at it and writes about it, it's distorted. And so to really get the story right, you've got to have your own input in it. And so it's very important to document things. All right, I'm going to go down the list now as far as the sibling chapters. Uncle James, what was he like?
Only second to my father. Only he was. If my dad is one, Uncle James is 1A in terms of how remarkable he was to me. He lived in, obviously living in New York. I saw him in some respects sometimes more often than I saw my dad, especially after I graduated from college. When I was living in New York, I saw Uncle James quite a bit. And again, it's one of the things, he was always there. He was always supportive. And he was teaching at Fordham and also at Brooklyn College, and I would go see him, listen to his lectures. He would, after class, he would take me. There was a gentleman by the name of Perry Knight, who was an old friend of the family's, Dr. Perry Knight. I think he had 2 or 3 PhDs at the time.